Hello and welcome.
Hey.
So I was trying to
right
use
now.
the NVIDIA broadcast app, and it was not playing well with Firefox. I couldn't get it to recognize it. So screw you, broadcast app.
Yeah.
Or better yet, screw you, Firefox.
Well, yeah. Fudge. Sickles.
Milk, lemonade. Round the corner, the fudge is made.
Wow, I haven't heard that in a while.
Nope.
Okay. Everybody.
So somebody liked your Cherry keyboard and mouse review. I actually just got an email, and thanks for sending it over, Josh. Similar sort of thing. But I just got an email from somebody who wants to do like a collaboration or a review or maybe some sponsorship.
Maybe they're just scamming you. You never know.
It could be.
It's
Yeah.
the
You know
internet.
what? It is. And, you know, a lot of things happen on the internet. And whatever happens on the internet stays on the internet, right?
Forever.
Nobody's allowed to lie on the internet.
It's true.
Mm,
It's like TV news. It has to be
Yeah.
true or you couldn't say it.
right. So truth in broadcasting, as it were.
Truthiness.
I'm trying to find it, though, just so I can read
Feel
it.
better now, Josh?
Nope.
Your video looks great, though, Josh, I have to say. I mean, it's by Laramie standards.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Now I've got damn milk lemonade in my...
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. It's 6:30. 630 episodes of this stuff. It would be more, but we took that break.
Yeah.
It wasn't you guys, it was us. If you're watching the
So,
stream.
yeah, it's a company that sells Cherry keyboards and PBT keycaps on Amazon.
Okay.
And they would like us to potentially do more testing. Yeah.
I mean, Cherry is more than willing to send stuff directly if you're interested in reviewing some of their stuff. We can talk about that offline. Not that they pay us, because we don't take money for reviews, but they're like, hey,
That
do
is
you want to
correct.
review anything? Anything in the lineup look good? You get a
Please,
lot of that kind
please.
of stuff. If you've reviewed one thing from a company, they're like, we have other
Right.
stuff. Have you looked at our recent lineup? Like, do you have anything new? Like, look at this list of products. Go to our website at this URL. Okay.
While there's no payment, of course, for any of that stuff, but it doesn't hurt to have a good relationship with manufacturers and
Especially if you want to
And distributors.
cultivate an advertising relationship down the line. Although in 2021, cultivating like a traditional place, like what are they called, display ads on a website, it's kind of. I mean,
yeah, you can do it's you have a better chance of doing like special projects type stuff, like to say,
Yes.
hey, I want to use some of your products in this sort of scenario, and you can get people or the
and
makers
then
to
they're like, video? Is it a video?
get in on that.
Video?
There's
You're gonna feature us in a build on a video?
Yeah, I mean that's a big deal too. Yep, unfortunately or fortunately, I mean it's
Yeah,
the way it is.
That's what they want.
Lorash says if there's no time of year that you can go outside and play hokey, oh, he changed it to hockey.
We
That's
fixed
too
it
bad.
in time.
I'd rather play hokey with artificial anything. Yes, let's do the hokey without anything artificial. You shouldn't get any hokey.
Play hooky
Did you
to
get caught
hooky.
playing hooky?
Yeah.
Hokey.
Drewski, I agree.
Does-
I'm stunned by how good everybody's video looks this week. Remember, we're all remote, and it's all.
This
It's
It
all
would look
pretty
even
good.
better if I could get NVIDIA broadcast working and
Well,
we
yeah, 'cause
didn't
you
have to
that-
see the
that
shit in the behind me.
glossy- I don't understand this. Why doesn't vMix have a standalone client app like Skype does, so you could use that to call into your vMix calls? It's because they force you to use a browser, and browsers with webcams and mics is a nightmare.
It can be, yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. You have no control over it, essentially.
Sometimes
Okay,
the
I've
volume
got-
doesn't work. Sometimes the video doesn't work.
Yeah. Or
It
sometimes
knows
it,
best.
Sometimes the
The-
ball gag doesn't work.
there's that too. Sometimes you don't have permission to use the ball gag. I mean, the mic,
Okay.
the browser
Can we
loses
start the
permission.
show? Are we
No,
ready?
No, because I got distracted. Now I got to put the code in. Just a
Okay.
minute.
All right. Let's.
Nah, I just gotta sing Milk, Milk, Lemonade.
Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, let me do this. Jeremy checking when I'm done here. So, okay.
Well, yeah.
All right.
I'm tired of being ruled by morons. Not you guys.
Okay.
All
Just
right,
in
power
general.
Just
on.
reading random things on the internet.
Oh,
Don't let it rule you.
Yeah.
Don't even let it influence you.
You are the influencer, not it.
Bruce says, "Is this a Triple X show? I just found it randomly, hoping for
Nothing
a full
yet.
frontal."
Well, I will be getting into my hot tubs and streaming on Twitch later
There's a new category for that.
with my
There it
cat.
goes.
there is. Yep. Okay, we're good now.
Okay. That's a good.
Are you going to be? Are
starting
you
point?
going to wear your bikini, Josh, or are you going to?
Mankini.
Nope.
Oh,
I
your
thought it was
mankini.
just. I thought
Okay.
we just called it a speedo, but
Okay.
He
Banana
cut the sides
hammock.
out of it, so it's a little more svelte.
Bruce says he's definitely tuning in. So cheers, man.
yeah, Josh's hot tub channel would be, I think, more
Hot.
successful than you think.
I think it would gain
More successful than I'm
viewership.
afraid of.
All right.
This
Let's
cat's
start
not
it.
leaving me alone. There she goes. There she goes again.
On her own.
There she goes again.
All right, let's do it. Let's have a quick. We're gonna breeze through some of these topics.
Let's do
We're
it.
gonna shoot for an
It's 8:09.
hour.
It's gonna
Let's
be
do
breezy.
it. Okay. Everybody, welcome back to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 630, being recorded on May 26th, 2021. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Spruenberg, and I award this podcast an extra 5 horsepower today.
Does this say shipped or is
Final,
that a
huh?
5 HP?
It's
Oh, it's
plus
5.
five.
Okay, I just glanced
Plus
over.
5 horsepower. This is a
Flip
sticker
shift?
that you can. No, it's flip shift. Flip shift. So this is a sticker you can put on pretty much anything, and it adds 5 horsepower.
It gets an extra 5 horsepower.
Highly.
What if you throw it on a
recommended.
horse?
I'm going to put it on tonight's podcast.
No, put it on a horse. See what happens.
It might not pass the post-race test.
Drug test.
Yeah.
Mm.
If anybody senses the podcast moving with extra velocity tonight,
Verve.
this is the reason. Yeah.
In that vein,
Excellent.
go to pcper.com/subscribe. You will get an email notifying you before we go live for events like this podcast recording session every week. And
So subscribe.
yeah,
Subscribe
hit
like
that
the wind.
bell. Get notified. Well, that's a YouTube thing, but anyway,
Hit
you
the
can help-
subscribe button. But you can
Yeah.
do that too.
Yep.
If you're watching
have to
this,
like
you're
us.
watching it on YouTube. Don't like us. Please
Just
leave
subscribe.
us a contemptuous comment or two. But that's, let's see, where was I? Oh, yeah. Help us out. Become a patron of the PC Per Arts at patreon.com/PCPer. This is the time where I ask Brett for an update. Do we have any new patrons?
We do. I'd like to welcome with great
Open
respect
arms.
and reserved and open arms, Justin. My understanding is he's a terrible cook, and he'll understand what that means. So, Justin, you're a terrible cook. Thank you very much for your
I don't
patronage.
think it's
There's
my
so
brother.
many resources out there, Justin, and you just recipes are online now. It's so easy.
You can just take the can of soup and just turn it around and just go like, oh,
It's not
recipes.
cooking.
Oh,
That's heating.
it's what is that? Well, I mean, okay.
All right. Without further ado, it's Burger of the Week. Josh, please.
Oh, geez. Is
Take
it really
it.
time
It's
for
time.
that?
It's time. Here we go.
Let
Not-
me
not to
get
put you on the
my
spot or
let
anything.
me clear my throat. Let me get my glasses so I can speak a little bit better.
Podcast is moving fast.
It is moving fast. So this one is called Pleasure by Pineapple. 2 beef patties topped with smoked pineapple, cream cheese, bacon, and pineapple caramel drizzle. So if you don't think you have enough pineapple, they're going to add a drizzle to it. And there's bacon that's embedded in that cream cheese. And under that cream cheese and bacon are the smoked pineapples. If you've ever had smoked pineapples, if you've never had them, you really should, because, I mean, fresh pineapple is fine and all. It's quite tasty. And I have a child yelling at me in the background. But when you smoke it and grill pineapple, it just releases so many more interesting flavors. And it cuts the acidity for some reason. Some chemist could probably explain why, but it's probably some oxidation involved that breaks down some of the bonds, and the acid turns more into carbon dioxide and water rather. Anyway, citric acid. I'll have to look that up. And all topped off, 2 beef patties, and it was really good. It was shockingly good because not everybody likes pineapple. But this was...
I could see Al running into this one.
Yeah, but this was
It's an obscene
tasty.
amount of pineapple.
And the cream cheese did not, over sweeten everything. It added kind of a more, basic type flavor to it all. And it all played off each other very, very nicely. The bacon was crisp. The patties were well done. They still had a good beefy flavor. They weren't covered up. Overall, it was a very satisfying experience. Now, again, as you probably know, I will not eat for another 24 hours because that's just a lot of burgers. And the fries were again, they were fantastic. They were perfectly done to my liking.
Excellent.
What is it called? Pleasure by Pineapple, which, if you think about it, that would not be possible.
I don't want to think about it. That would.
No.
I guess it depends on your definition of pleasure. But
Exactly.
This is just
anyway.
too easy.
how
to-
small do they make pineapples?
Not that small.
Okay.
I feel I need to warn you before we move to the first news item. Just a fair warning that KR Ducky has edited their pledge on Patreon,
Uh-oh.
on our Patreon.
To
So I just wanted to mention it. And
is it Cult of
thanks.
Maltavino?
Thanks, man. No, it's KR Ducky. Just
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just
thanks, man.
keeping it real. Thank you.
Yep.
Keep rocking the Linux builds. All right,
In the free world.
Let's move on to our first news story. Let's hit the news. It's been a light week. We're not going to lie about this. It's
Well, I mean, NVIDIA, they announced today their results.
We'll talk about it.
It's number
We'll
3.
Talk about it soon.
Number 3.
Oh,
We'll
that's
talk about it
great.
very soon.
We'll talk about it
just
then.
real quick. Let's just get
3.
it out of the way. AMD Ryzen rumors. Zen 4 Q4 2022. That's I don't want to wait that long, but
I know. Seems out there. Seems like they're going to be like a year behind the
I
12th gen
believe it.
curve here.
I don't believe it. How could it be that late? I feel like it would be next summer. They like to do things in May, June, July. This is coming from a Twitter account. This is WCCF Tech reporting Vegeta
Yeah, but this isn't the only.
Zen 4
Only one.
Raphael
This is-
announced
yeah.
2022 9. What is the? Is this the tilde?
So it's the 9th or the 10th. Well,
Okay.
September, October, but actually released October, November.
They haven't done Zen 3 Plus yet. I mean, it kind of makes sense if they're following. I was more interested in the rumors about LGA CPUs. I don't know why that's.
If I were a betting man, and I'm not. Let's see, where are we at?
Well, some of the more interesting stuff.
I would
Oh, go ahead.
assume, DDR5 should be starting to be available by then.
That is
Why
correct.
is my dog howling in the background? She sounds very sad. What have you done to my dog, Sebastian?
Look, it's not what you think. All right. She has
Anyway,
plenty of air.
if I were a betting man, in between motherboards, design, I would think April, May is much more possible. I mean, I could be very wrong, but that's over a year and a half from when the 5000 series was launched. Intel is going very fast with what they're trying to do. LGA technology is very mature. Those Foxconn guys and others, they create those sockets pretty quickly, and they're not as problematic as they originally were back in the day with the Pentium 4, I believe, was the first mainstream LGA with 775. But it's going to be, it still puts more of the onus of quality control and pricing on the motherboard guys. So we can probably expect some higher prices for motherboards on the AMD side when going to LGA. I know, and it's already kind of high anyhow. But yeah, I think that to be competitive, they would really need to release in April, May of next year.
Sebastian, if you look at that first article, there's a timeline chart. It looks like they're skipping over a Zen 3 Plus. That's the rumors. And that's what it would have filled that longer timeline that we're sort of reacting to. And it doesn't look like they're planning on releasing that Zen 3 Plus.
I haven't really heard much about. I mean, yeah, we've heard initial rumors and whatnot. I mean, we're going to get probably the XT treatment here.
Yeah.
Sometime this summer, but
that's that Warhol one. Yeah.
Yeah, but the 6 nanometer, is it really working out? Is it worth it? I don't know. I think that they're probably going to jump.
Problem.
Who said anything about them skipping over Zen Plus or Zen 3 Plus? Because they're talking about a roadmap in which in Q4 2022 we go to Zen 4. So you'd think there'd be a stopgap between now and then.
I would agree with you, and that's what that was. So, but rumors that I had read is that they're maybe not going to be making that.
Oh, I see.
And
it seems like it's a step too little.
Yes, maybe that was it.
If they're staying as aggressive as they are with Intel, because Intel's turning things around. It's going to take a while. That ship is going to take a while to turn around, but it's starting to tack in the right direction. And if you can pull in Zen 4 and that new socket architecture to, clamp on to the new DDR5 modules that will be coming out, you're still going to look at PCIe 4.0, because even though Intel will have PCIe 5.0, they're looking at kind of a desert, the same way AMD did when they released the 3000 series. And there was essentially nothing PCIe 4.0 except for the one Phison E16. And those came out 4 months later?
Sure.
3 months? Anyway. So yeah, I think that, not going to PCIe 5.0 is not going to kill AMD. Intel will have that little check mark that OEMs seem to like, but yeah, there's not going to be anything there for PCIe 5.0. I mean, GPUs, there's not a whole lot of talk of moving to that anytime soon. So yeah, if AMD can reel Zen 4 in at the beginning of summer, then that'd be great. But if it's fall, then it's what it is.
Now, you guys wanted to talk about the socket, which is sort of interesting, and that obviously AM5 is not going to be pinned, anymore, and it's all going to be LGA, which is nice because now you can drop anything, just like Intel, dropping something on the socket will now destroy it, which is great.
But
yep.
Dropping the CPU
It's a great feature.
will not result in hours of agonizing pin untangling.
Yeah, I mean, but you're really not going to win on one end or the other. Just don't drop anything. So I guess that's the real rule.
I'd rather have my $500 or $700 CPU relatively safe and worry about a $350 motherboard.
Yeah, stay in the board retention. As you're removing coolers and stuff. So that was always
damaged LGA pins. So if you're really careful about installing them and they're keyed and it's possible to do it wrong, Just make sure you've actually oriented the CPU correctly before you put all that clamping force down on that
Wait,
socket.
right.
wait a minute. You
I don't know.
said you've never damaged LGA.
Okay. Other than an infamous
Well-
video from about a decade
Yes.
ago, 8-9 years ago.
That was a while ago.
Which was made
Yeah,
out
the
of joke,
sound.
and then Ryan shamelessly released it on the website.
Come on, the sound
wasn't
when
the
you
worst
pushed down
installed
that
on.
lever.
Oh, crunch.
The theory was if you take a socketed AMD processor and you put it on an LGA Intel motherboard, and it was a Sempron something or other, and you squish them together, at some point enough LGA pins will make contact with enough CPU pins that something will happen.
Something will happen.
Speaking of things happening and sockets, Intel's next socket, Alder Lake S, it's the LGA 1800, may not be compatible with your existing Intel cooler. Not
Well,
just
that would be
because-
out of character for Intel.
yeah, it's been a little while. 1366
No, I'll give 'em that.
shrunk down to like the LGA 115X, which has used the same hole pattern for years now, but the hole pattern apparently is slightly different, and you could get an adapter for that. But the Z height is
Yeah, that's the
lower
killer.
with these
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
processors. So you'd have to have some kind of a spacer for some of these.
Extra thermal paste.
Oh, I see.
Oh
yeah.
It would totally
Okay.
work.
Okay. Or
Just
just,
keep
lower
stacking up those-
profile standoffs for like if you're
Thermal
using like a
pads.
Corsair liquid cooler, they'll probably ship these smaller standoff screws out to people, and
Yeah, that'd
you have a
work
kit you
too.
can buy. I'm sure Noctua
Or we could
will
just
have some
ask
sort of a kit.
we could just ask Asus how tall the thermal pads are.
Oh, hey, you're getting ahead of yourself here.
I am.
So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, look out for that. It's story on Igor's lab. Has some like renders and all the deets about the new socket.
Hey, I think someone just posted your video to
Video.
the
Computer
Josh
hardware
did.
myths exposed. Kind of.
Kind of, yes.
This is satire.
Yeah,
Please.
the whole point was that I wanted to look like a buffoon who didn't know anything, so I was holding a slot 1 Pentium up against I don't even know what. It was an AMD socketed Sempron of some kind. And saying that all processors are the same, it's all a lie, it's all marketing. And then I
It
built
also wasn't the worst CPU build that we'd seen that year.
Yeah, I did the top-down video trend that was so hot on, like, I don't know if Facebook was doing video yet at this point, but like top-down recipe videos. So I was like cramming the GPU down into a memory slot and just whatever. We'll revisit that at some point with commentary.
I'm sure it'll be very, very nice.
So TechSpot, we'll go over this very briefly. Go over to TechSpot for outstanding photography and in-depth coverage of various gaming benchmarks, but they did I like face-off type things. We need to do more of this stuff. You take a Ryzen
people love
7
this.
That was a horrible movie.
Bite your tongue.
That's different.
57. Okay, Ryzen 7 5800X versus Intel Core i7 11700K. Sounds like a great matchup. Head-to-head, 32 games.
$420
tested.
versus $400.
Yep, very close in
Oh,
price.
yeah,
Here they are on
competitive.
apparently a piece of glass, or they just photoshopped this. Guessing it was just shopped.
They got to the helium-filled ones.
Yeah.
They're floating.
Oh, why did I click on the photo?
Why'd you do that?
I don't know.
Now what are you going to do?
How do I escape this?
I
They
don't
pop
know.
up a
You
new
gotta
tab.
close-
That's
Is it a close?
That's a
Is
good
it a
question.
tab? You can't.
I-
You're
I-
done.
I don't
Oh.
know. Hold on.
It's a
Go
new
Alright.
tab.
back. Go back.
Hey, let's talk about this matchup. Let's talk about this
opened-
matchup. This
It opened a new tab.
5800X.
You know what? You can
versus
now actually
11,700K.
buy 5800Xs. It's just
can?
the 5900s and 5950s that are not as.
Well,
Anyway.
also hard to justify buying unless you're doing serious work.
Here we go. Horizon
Yeah.
Zero Dawn, ultimate quality at 1080p.
Yep.
What video card are they using?
They're using
gonna
something
ask.
you might not be expecting.
Which
It's
is
a
Which is
580X.
6900 XT.
oh, okay.
oh
6900
what?
XT, everybody's
Oh, okay,
favorite
that's pretty
1080p
heavy.
video card. It makes sense.
Oh, you
Yes,
usually see a
1080p.
3080, so it was kind of nice.
Yeah.
And their justification was that it made the differences at 1080p larger. As
Okay.
you can see, that needed all the help it could get.
What you also should notice if you're watching the video, and I will tell you if you're listening to the audio, is AMD, these 5000 series processors, they do better with high frame rate gaming at 1080p than Intel does. And that was always Intel's bread and butter. They would have us, look at slides showcasing things like Dota 2 at insane, like 500 plus FPS numbers, which were way above, because you could take that disparity of 5%, and when you're talking 500 frames per second, it looks huge on a chart. Now we're looking at AMD typically having the lead. It's only a few frames per second. We're talking in this particular game
not
because the
noticeable.
settings are at ultimate.
Yeah, but look at those minimums, man. You're going to feel that in the bottom
higher
of the pit of your
minimums by
stomach.
2 frames per second on AMD. Higher frames per second average by 4 FPS at 1080p. We're talking 171 versus 167 here. At 1440p, maintains its lead, 3 frames per second, 4 frames per second. AMD over Intel. And then at 4K, they're pretty much tied.
Yep.
81 versus 80. AMD still in the lead. Here's Watch Dogs
You know,
Legion. I'm not going to go over every single game, but
it's funny
Well,
that
if you
Josh
scroll
just
down,
said
they'll do a
that.
delta.
Okay, let's go all the way to the
Okay,
bottom.
that would be cool. But the point is that, Josh, you're absolutely right. Without a nicely solid 120 or 144 hertz monitor, none of this matters.
No.
Bragging rights.
Not everybody has those. Well, okay.
Here's some
But,
of these.
I mean,
like,
it's
You know,
not
I
like
like
everybody
running
has
his
those.
VSync off at 130 frames per second on a 60 hertz monitor because
Yeah.
it feels like
man.
my eyes have gone through a cheese grater. And, that's... Don't knock it till you try it.
It feels really
Like
good when you
pineapple on a
stop,
burger.
for one thing.
Yeah.
By the way, when you see results like these, where there is no difference between the two,
Yeah.
you are GPU bound here. So 112 frames per second versus 112 with minimums of 97 versus 97. So you're just GPU bound. This is Jedi Fallen
Wait,
Order.
are
Pretty
you
much
sure
so,
about
those
that? Because they're identical at 4K, so maybe your two processors are pretty evenly
don't know.
matched.
I would say that
He's
if
got a
it's,
good point.
if it's GPU bound at 1440, it would also be GPU bound at 4K. That's my point. Let's see. Fortnite. Again, AMD
Oh,
with the lead. This time it's about 11 frames per second at 1080p. And it's
Okay,
about
maybe
10
you're
frames
right.
per second at 1440p. Okay, anyway, where are these deltas? Sorry for
They
scrolling
did
so
more
fast.
than a few.
Yeah, they did
Keep
32
going. Oh
my
games.
gosh.
Here's a
There
summary.
you go.
Oh, here we go.
4% faster on average is the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X over
At 1080p.
the
At
Core i7
1080p.
At 1080p, yes.
Yeah.
So if you're
Scroll
buying
down to
this,
1440s,
You know
and it's
what?
almost the exact same.
honestly, normally I would say no, 1440 and up. That's where you can't buy a GPU, so you're probably using an older one, and you'd be playing newer games at 1080p to get a high frame rate.
Good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, could be.
But on the off
1060.
chance that you weren't, the results pretty much don't change.
Yeah, it's true. See, look, here we are at 1440. The Ryzen 7 5800X across 32 games is still 3% faster. These aren't huge numbers. They're the kind of numbers that Intel always enjoyed showing off. Like, oh yeah, maybe AMD has better multi-thread because they have more cores, but look at us in gaming. And now it's like, well, AMD's faster in gaming.
Not so
Now
much.
what? Well, we have much higher power consumption than AMD. There you go.
Oh, wait.
We'll keep you warm
They win
in the
that
wintertime.
every time.
That's
Yes.
that's not a positive.
No, the numbers are higher. Brett, listen. If
Yeah.
you have one CPU that pulls 280 watts and another CPU that only pulls 115,
Which is
I'm not
number?
taking that
Which number's
280.
higher?
That's more watts equals more horsepower.
More better, more horsepower. Okay.
Okay, Josh.
No, I'm
And
not
so
convinced.
You
that's-
I'm
gotta warm
convinced.
up those tires.
That's
Because if you're not, you're just not going to be going around the course very, very well. So
that's a racing mentality there. I like it.
Okay, Josh. In 7 minutes or less, please guide us through NVIDIA earnings.
holy crap!
6 minutes.
He's done.
Oh,
4 minutes.
oh, you
that
went
was
with
it.
Okay.
NVIDIA revenue. Here's the headline at CNBC. NVIDIA revenue jumps 84%. I wonder why. From last year,
Gosh.
as gamers,
Yeah, right.
gamers demand graphics chips. Okay,
that part's true.
it's
Did they get them?
They're both happening at the same time. Their revenues jumped, and also gamers are demanding graphics chips that they can't buy. But let's see. This happened once.
The miners,
before.
on the other hand, are perfectly happy.
Yeah.
Okay. It says the processors it sells specifically for crypto mining
Mining.
have sales
Yeah.
of 155 million. They didn't come out with those mining specific chips until just a couple months ago, did they?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
They also didn't
Correct.
take Bitcoin for
Yeah.
buying them.
So yeah, Nvidia is now a $5.6 billion a quarter company. That's absolutely bonkers. I remember back in the day when they were only a billion, and then when they broke the $2 billion, and only like 3 years ago did they get over the $3 billion level. And that was when AMD was unable to compete. And now they're sitting at $5.66 billion of revenue. Their earnings, I mean, their net revenue is something like 2.3 billion. I mean, that's when all the bills are paid. That's how much money they got left. That's ludicrous. That was AMD's entire quarter like 2 years ago. 2.3 billion. That's the profit Nvidia got in well, I mean, they call it something else. It's like Q2 2022, Q1 20. Anyway, it's what people usually say of Q1 2021. This is Nvidia's, interpretation of what it should be. 5.66 billion. That's ludicrous. 2.7 billion just from their gaming graphics. Another like 2.2 from data center. It was like 2.0 to 2.2, somewhere around in there. They're making bank across the board. And automotive went down. Some of that other stuff stayed kind of in there. But the big movers, of course, were data center and, of course, gaming. And gaming, part of that is Ethereum crypto. And that is getting bought up like mad because Ethereum is going crazy still. Even though it took a pretty good chunk, it's slowly rising back up again, and it's still profitable for these people to do. And so getting a graphics card for the common user, someone like, I had a guy come, emailed me, hey, can you build me kind of a supercomputer? I've got the money. It's like, I'd love to. However, you just can't get the graphics cards. It's unless you're paying double to 2.5 times, you're not getting anything. But we
Almost
know
triple.
that, and that's an issue for not only Nvidia but AMD, because the 6700 XT is a $449 product that goes regularly for $900, $950, $1,000, depending on what model you have. It's ludicrous. They're making hay while the sun is shining, and I'll tell you, they're pissing off a lot of people. And Newegg with their shuffle, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here.
here
But
we go.
Newegg with
Here
their
comes
shuffle.
the shuffle rant.
The other day, Roseville Teapot was part of the shuffle. Some executive came in and was like, well, a shuffle's really popular. Maybe we should shove in some other products in there and, get some visibility on them. And that lasted for like one day because it was pretty roundly. But anyway, back to NVIDIA. They're very well run. They're selling everything that they can. They're trying to get out the low hash rate stuff out next month, maybe. But yeah, I mean, gross margin, 64.1%. I mean, it's down from last year a little bit, which was 65%. But yeah, they're still knocking out of the park, and they've got a tremendous amount of product that is flowing. And they're still going to be wafer constrained. They're packaging constrained. Final assembly probably is constrained because different components on an actual GPU, they're still under constraints because of shipping, because of COVID stuff. That we should be seeing some improvement because in the areas where a lot of this stuff's going on, COVID is not nearly the problem as, say like India. But yeah, NVIDIA made a tremendous amount of money. And I'm shocked that they have not gotten into more buyback stuff because they've got a lot of cash on hand. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that development, with that money that on hand, with R&D. If they're going to try to go into other areas that they currently are not, you never can tell. But I think Jensen Huang was put on record as saying when they founded NVIDIA back in the early 1990s, I think 94, their goal was do compute better. And it just so happened that gaming was just becoming compute intensive, and 3D stuff was an area where they could really apply their expertise and go from there. And 6 years later, in 2000, they started talking about what more can we do with GPUs. And as they became more and more programmable, they tried to do more things with them. And now we're at a point where they're doing, pre-visualization, they're doing machine learning, doing all this other stuff, as well as just rendering games and ray tracing and all this fun stuff that people would love to do if they could buy cards. But yeah, they've come a long way from being, sub $20 million a quarter in revenue, and now sitting at 5.66 billion. That's that. I mean, they're 27 years into their existence, and that's a tremendous jump. And congratulations to NVIDIA. You guys you're knocking it out of the park. I mean, the world and fate and demand have all come to your doorstep at the right time for you to make this kind of scratch. But I'm jealous, obviously, because I'm not making that kind of money. But then again, I don't really deliver many products.
Just start a fab. Think about how much more money NVIDIA could make if they had more fab space.
I'll go to my credit union and see if they're willing to fund that, and we'll go from there.
Educate that person behind the desk. Like, hey, look, you know what a fabrication? What is a?
Hey,
fab
you know what?
exercise?
I've got 10 plus years of podcasts. Let's go through some of the things I've said, and you can.
Yeah, go back to a 2008 podcast and show them. Like, look, this is me. This was me. Look at this headset I was wearing. I was all in.
Josh, why don't you just personally make sure that the ARM acquisition goes through? Just go broker that deal for them and then kind of reap the rewards off of that. Just personally solve that.
Yeah, they didn't talk much about that, but it's going to. I think it's going to happen.
But look at this.
I mean, the Brits are kind of holding things back a little bit, but in the end, it's going to be a juggernaut because machine learning is hot. NVIDIA has got the software stack. ARM has the technology that can be applied from half-watt units up to 350 watt.
They've got the power to weight. They've got the power to weight ratio, man.
They've
and the scalability that NVIDIA doesn't have yet.
Correct. So it's going to be interesting.
But it sucks to work for them right now.
Apparently.
Yeah. I got a little ahead of ourselves, but let's stop here for just a moment and hear from our first podcast sponsor this week.
Our first podcast sponsor this week is Text Expander. Less repetition for fewer errors.
As was
that in later.
Yeah, we'll put that in. We're back. As was briefly alluded to, as I threw up a screen while we were talking a minute ago. If you're trying to work at ARM, you may not be able to find a position until after the NVIDIA takeover is finalized, according to an exclusive report at the Register. They have an engineering hiring freeze that may last until April of next year, when it expects the acquisition by NVIDIA to complete. Now, they're still waiting on some legal hurdles there. But that's the...
Well, and we haven't heard from... Yeah, well, and legal and HR apparently don't seem to be posting anything, but aren't officially under this freeze. This is just the part we care about, as opposed to the support services guys. And I mean, there's a bunch of countries that are still going to stick their feet in the water of this and try and either get something out of ARM and NVIDIA to let it go through, or try and stop it because they are under the mistaken belief that they can somehow replicate what's going to happen out of this. But the hiring freeze is, you know, it's a bit of a kick, especially when they're saying that they won't backfill, which is how you describe hiring back someone to replace the job that you fired another guy from. So not even going to be doing that. So you're going to watch some attrition going on for a while. But back when they first got taken over by SoftBank, they put into effect this thing called FlexPot Wellness. Essentially, it was their bonus plan. You could use it for anything that was wellness related. So from a bigger monitor to help your eyes at work, to sending your kid to summer camp, to just about anything. But for instance, in the US, and it was all locational based, but in the US it was $8,500. That's gone. That will be gone until this comes into effect, and it's either the NVIDIA's kicked out, or NVIDIA obviously is likely to happen is that they're going to buy them. So, you know, there's going to be some kickback, I think,
Hurt feelings
from the employees. Yeah.
Oh.
From just about everywhere. I think it was
$8,500 is not a small chunk of change. I mean, if I were spending $8,500 a year on things like athletic shoes for my kids,
exactly,
Lycra for myself,
$8,500 a year on shoes. How
Well,
kids
okay,
do you
not
have?
that's like
just
3
5?
Nikes.
I think
it's like, you know, I'm going to send my
school
kid to basketball
but
camp.
Oh,
It's
okay.
$500.
$500.
You're going to pick up an ergonomic chair for working at home. You're
All
going to
right,
talk
now
to
you're
a
talking.
psychiatrist.
what are you going to talk about?
You know what we're
How
going to talk
shitty
about?
my boss is.
You
at
like
Peace
to
and
know.
Her.
Hey, it's that guy. All right, let's quickly
Good call.
move back into the news. Speaking of ARM, you know, do you know this whole like, Apple ARM thing? Has anybody paid attention to that? How Apple, you know, they go off of x86 and they're going on to ARM now.
Has anyone?
I've heard of it.
M1
I've heard of it.
Okay,
looking at
yeah,
what?
M something. So you know how
Isn't
they
that getting like
released-
really low repairability scores?
Yeah, but
It is.
Go to 10 or so?
it's all glue and it's basically an iPad. The new iMac is.
Look, it doesn't matter.
Sick.
Move on.
Yeah, let's move past that. Apple released their M1 dev kit as just a Mac Mini, long before the actual launch. So,
Correct.
what do you think Windows, like Microsoft, what do you think they would do? Let's see. Let's directly copy that idea. Microsoft and Qualcomm team up to create a Windows on ARM developer PC.
Wait.
Tom Warren at
You
the
haven't noticed that whatever Apple does, everyone copies. This is the first time you noticed
I
that?
have noticed that since I began
Okay.
observing
Isn't
the
that a
industry. So
It's a Mac Mini.
Hey, you know what? How
it's
many
a Nook.
$999 roller feet for cases have you seen?
none.
Not
'Cause I thought
many.
Apple's were only $500.
Yeah, they aren't quite that much
The
money.
stand.
Okay,
for
what was the
monitor
stand?
$1,000.
Monitor
Yeah, it was the monitor
stand.
stand.
It was the stand.
If
And
you don't
which
have
actually
that
turns out
last $1,000, just lean it up against something, you pauper. But if you had that extra grand, you can actually put your monitor on its own stand. I guess the thinking was, professionals are going to have monitor arms, so they're just going to connect this to. No. Everybody wanted the prestige. If you're spending that much money on the Mac Pro, you're not doing it because you just wanted a workstation. You're doing it because you wanted to showcase, like in an MKBHD video, your Apple,
yeah, but
all Apple
that
workstation.
monitor was targeted at specific industries and specific workflows with its color response and its
Jan,
viewing angles
there
and
are
all that.
The upper half of the podcast,
there are
not Josh and I's half.
incredible monitors out there for photo editing that are extremely accurate, that can be calibrated to near perfection, that are not made by Apple.
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
You,
I mean, no,
you
they
might-
don't have that certain kind of etched glass that's glass, but it's still not as reflective. Just don't use glass. If you don't want it to be reflective, just don't use glass.
Yeah,
Is
but
it
have you
bought?
seen the packaging and the
Oh,
experience?
I know. The packaging. Apple's packaging is the stuff that dreams are made of. Just unboxing Apple products. I feel
honestly is.
myself.
We have different dreams.
I lose myself. Waves of pleasure. So the ARM-based dev kit is coming because previously you had to buy some more expensive device. And The Verge points out that the Surface Pro X was one of only a few options for devs previously. Well, now you can just buy this cheap mini desktop thing. It's basically a Nook, and it's going to be ARM64, and that's the future. I mean, let's be real. This is the future. So, being on a low-power ARM platform, Apple jumped on the bandwagon just like they jumped on the USB bandwagon, and they dropped the floppy drive, and then everybody else started dropping the floppy drive, and everybody else started dropping serial
Thunderbolt.
ports.
Thunderbolt. Not Thunderbolt. No. What's the other
Light
one?
Peak.
1394.
Light Peak.
Oh, FireWire.
1394.
Oh,
Firewire.
Yeah,
That's FireWire. And B,
FireWire
1394. A and
FireWire
B.
really sucked.
There's FireWire on a few things, but FireWire 800, I never saw that outside of a Mac.
That is, well, maybe.
I
might
never
have-
saw it. Maybe it was out there
There
somewhere.
might
My
have
Sound
been.
Blaster had Firewire.
Did it have FireWire 800? Did it have 800?
No, it did not.
Where it ended up taking off was actually in professional cameras and video, and actually I think it was mostly video cameras. For that period of time, that was the highest bandwidth connection that you could make. So when people were trying to pull raw video off of higher end digital cameras, it was FireWire, and that's why it lived as long as it did.
Yeah,
Camera
DV.
companies.
You had a DV camcorder. USB kind of sucked for consistent high bandwidth
It did.
transfer speeds back then. So
Yep.
you wanted that FireWire. High end scanners, DV
True.
camcorders, that kind of stuff. And
Scuzzy.
Sony, of course, had that mini DV thing. What was that called? I don't even know.
SCSI was great when it worked.
Yep.
Was FireWire is basically anyway.
Yeah.
Let's move on. If you
Moving
followed the PC enthusiast community over the last couple of weeks, and all about Gamers Nexus Twitter account had posted this bizarre kind of request to Asus
It was
support
bizarre.
about the thermal pads. I want to replace the thermal pads in my GPU. I think it was this.
Well, it was a regular guy. It's just some regular dude who was like just working over his GPU. I think it was GPU. Had taken it off for servicing, cleaning, or maybe putting on a different block, or whatever. And he had sent a message to Asus and said, "Hey, what thermal pad actually goes back here?" And they said, "No,
thick is
that's
it?"
proprietary." And Gamers Nexus jumped on that with like, we could have just looked at the original one and just mic'd it, just measured it. So it's not like the information couldn't be found. Why don't you help this guy and stop being?
Well,
I'm not going to say anything about that part.
I mean, unless the thermal pad had totally disintegrated, why couldn't you just measure it yourself? And then buy
well,
one
maybe
with
it
an
ripped,
appropriate
or maybe he
thickness?
threw it away before he measured it, or something. But yeah,
Sounds like that. I mean, good on them for
This
relenting
kid ate
and
it.
telling them, hey, by the way, it's 1 millimeter or whatever they said.
yes.
Well,
it is-
it wasn't the original guy backtracking. It was one of their PR people realizing this can go one of two ways. One, everyone will just forget about it in a couple of weeks, or two, people will be screaming about it for years.
Oh, here we go. It's Jeff Campman, formerly of the
Jeff
Tech
Catman
Report.
just like, no, they're a millimeter thick, dude. It's cool. And those responsible for telling you it was verboten to tell are going to be, beaten with sticks. most
Those
likely.
responsible have been sacked.
yes. That, and he got out in front of it, going like, "No, we're cool. It's 1 millimeter, man.
Yeah.
It's 1 millimeter. It's all good."
Because remember, there
Please
have
stop
been
talking about
times
this.
where people didn't back off, when companies didn't back off, and we still bitch
Yeah.
about it to this day.
True.
For some reason, I have
Apple's-
a story linked here from a website called Windows Latest that I've never heard of before. Let's dive right in. As I infect my computer, Microsoft
Yep.
confirms next
Well, you got the
generation
newest
Windows
Edge now.
10. It's incredible. They
It's
confirmed
Did Johnny
it.
incredible.
Shee get hired by Microsoft?
I loved the headline on this one.
It's
It's
incredible.
Confirmed. Look,
incredible.
unbelievable.
Incredible.
You can't believe it. The
They
pixels
thought it was going to be the
flying
fastest,
at you.
best version of Windows ever, and they just confirmed it.
Incredible and massive.
Does it run
This is
on
great.
ARM? That's what I want to know.
Oh,
We know that the future of Windows is incredible. Panos Panay.
incredible.
Wait a minute. Didn't he
Who's
used to work
Panos
for Google?
Panay?
I thought he used to work for Google. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, I think he did.
But look at this. Look at this. Have you ever seen a
Oh.
more beautiful? Look at these these
Oh.
icons. It's like we've taken a step back in time. You remember the Windows Media Edition theme for Windows XP? Everything was a little bit shinier.
Yeah, but it's got rounded
Pretty sure.
corners, and
I
it's floating over the taskbar.
Uh,
Come on, man.
I'm not
Rounded.
seeing that.
But look at that. Look, see, it's not connected to the taskbar.
Oh, okay.
Just-
I didn't
yeah.
See that gap? See that gap?
That
No,
is
it-
Rounded
very
corners,
Apple-like.
man.
That is very
That's
Do you
Apple-like.
not
Very
realize how hard it is to
Apple-like.
code that?
That's true. Who was it?
I couldn't code it.
Revolution in the
Yes, I'm an
Valley. Read
idiot.
that book if you want to know about how hard it is to code rounded rectangles, which Steve Jobs insisted on. And they said, why? How many
Do you
CPU
mean-
cycles is that going to have to take? That Andy Hertzfeld
And
did that, I think.
whatever it took, and he was right. I'll die on that hill.
Whatever. Whatever Steve said, it was right, and I know it. You've been
Not
caught in that
always.
They knew
reality
it was-
distortion field for decades.
Not always, but rounded Rex, he was right about those.
Rounded Rec. Well, because he went out
Yep.
into the real world and he said, "Look, guys, street signs. They don't just have sharp corners. Some of them have a rounded rectangle. Look at these. Look at this sign on this theater. Rounded."
He wasn't
I said,
wrong.
You know what, Steve?
He wasn't
You're
wrong.
not wrong, but that's a pain in the ass, and we have to figure out how to
Yep.
make a rounded corner using just. I don't
And
even-
Steve was just the kind of person that would walk in there and break it off. You know what I'm saying?
In
he
his
would-
butt
I
if he
missed
didn't
that.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
He did the kind of stuff that Elon wants to do but can't pull off.
No. He's trying.
That's not bad.
You're
That's
right
not
about
bad.
You have to have more than just the arrogance. You have to have more than just the self-assurance about your vision.
that. You're right.
Let's take a break here for podcast sponsor number 2.
Number 2, this is going to be Clear or ClearMe, which is a fast and effortless way to get through security at airports, for instance, and other places that require it. So it's a way to get pre-cleared and lower the friction through security. Get with it.
We're back, and finally, Linux on Chromebooks. It's coming out of beta. Chrome OS 91. I didn't know there were that many versions of Chrome OS, and yet there
Yeah,
are.
why are there so many?
Why not? So Google apparently, this is a story
there's more
on
numbers.
Android Central. Google hinted at several new Chromebooks coming later in the year. Who would have thought that, in a coming into a new school year where so many people have been remote over the last 12 plus months, and Chromebooks are at the very basis of a lot of education. Of course, they're going to have new
Unfortunately
Chromebooks.
true.
It's not really going out on a limb to say, I think there might be new Chromebooks in 2021. Really? And new software, too? So, the change in the status of this going from beta to a shipping product happens on the next release of Chrome OS. Android 11 is coming to Chromebooks with Chrome OS 90, bringing improved Android app support. That's a great way to get more apps on your device. Just run mobile apps. It's just a tablet.
Yeah, why bother coding new stuff? Just slap it on from the store.
It's just a tablet.
You know, it's
without a
it's working for
touchscreen and a
Apple,
built-in
by the way.
keyboard. Right.
Unless you ask Epic, in which case they say it might be working too well.
That's going to be decided by the courts.
We have one of these on hand, and shame on me for not having got to it yet. But
Well, that's why I threw it in here.
yeah, just to put the pressure on a little bit. Intel H20. Remember the H10? Everybody ran out to their local CDW and Office Depot and Office Max, if those still exist, and said, "I want the latest
Staples.
and greatest." Yeah, Staples. laptop with Intel Optane hybrid technology, please? Can you make sure that my PCI Express lanes are bifurcated? And then the people would just say, huh?
They gotta be bifurcated.
I need it to recognize two different by two PCI Gen 3 SSDs, but on one PCB.
And neither of them are talking the same.
One
They're different.
So it's that beautiful marriage. What happens when you combine Intel's Optane technology? Don't call it.
You get a storage mullet.
Don't call it storage.
Fast,
It's
fast,
Optane
slow.
technology.
Fast, fast.
Right,
Fast,
'cause
fast,
Optane,
slow.
It's
Fast,
great
fast,
for
slow.
those really small, random, low Q depth transfers, which actually drive a lot of your OS usage. It's legitimate to say that it improves your actual usage of a desktop.
Yeah, it is a real world experience multiplier.
It is hard. It has
it-
traditionally
yes.
been hard to benchmark. Apparently, PC Mark, its new storage test makes it easier. But anyhow, the H20, it's just an update to the H10, essentially. It's still Gen 3 PCI Express. It's still 2x2 devices. It still requires, it's still bifurcated. So I have to be able to pick up the two devices separately and then have the software combine them, and uses this Optane side as a cache, and it can be much faster in opening up certain apps and things once they've been cached. Anyhow, the other
I mean,
half of
literally,
it
if you
is
use your
PLC.
laptop to turn it on, open up the internet, browse Facebook for a while, and shut it off, you'll love this drive.
Well, at that point, if you're the kind of person who turns on your PC just to use Facebook, first of all, nobody shuts down their PC anymore. They just they close the laptop lid, and that's their version of shutting it off.
That's instant on.
And then they bring it back up, and it's probably just sitting in memory. So, wow, this PC is so fast, because you go to the same tab on the same browser, and that's all you ever do.
Then you try and load a movie.
Don't complicate the issue.
We'll look at a few benchmarks and things and see. I feel like it's going to be just a little bit better. I mean, their numbers are
No.
it's a little bit better than the H10, but you have to have a specific device to take advantage of this. So if the possibility of enhancing your life with slightly faster load times and slightly faster performance in certain circumstances appeals to you,
You know, if they actually had a controller, a single controller, instead of this, which I'm assuming it has two controllers, an Optane controller and the NAND controller.
Yep.
If they had one that just had sideband for Optane with 6 to 8 lanes for NAND, it would be an awesome, and plus some super caps. Got to have super caps. Maybe. It would be an awesome product that would just, your actual user experience would be really good for doing any kind of IO intensive stuff for programs, opening crap, whatever. But yeah, this bifurcation, you're going to have a whole lot more CPU overhead of where it's going to send data and where it's going to grab data from. And yeah, that makes things more complex because you've got a software layer in there. Yeah. I just don't see many upsides to this.
Unless you don't do anything with your computer that takes more than 32 gigs worth of storage.
Sure.
let's move on to the next story real quick. What is Biomutant?
Okay.
And why
Don't know.
can't I shift to it? What is happening?
It was supposed to be a very interesting game, and it was supposed to be very open world, very build your character. It was had a lot of promise. Oh, Jeremy, you wrote this story up.
Had a lot of promise, apparently.
Oh, okay. That's never good. But look, the price says AAA, £55, 60 euros, 60 US dollars. That means it's good,
I was
right?
looking forward to it.
It seemed amusing. You know, it's sort of like a mystical kung fu type, but you're a mutated animal in the world after humans have died because everything is post-apocalyptic now. It's like they're trying to prepare us for something in a way. And it looks, you know, cutesy, but at the same time sort of violent and
Horrifying.
interesting. But the thing is that it's trying to do about 873 things at once and doesn't actually bother to do any of them well, apparently. And the part that I went from, I don't care, maybe I will pick this up to try it, to what you've who the hell let that through? Whenever you're talking to somebody, and this is an RPG, so there's a lot of dialogue, what you hear is grumbling, growly animal voices, and there is a narrator voice that comes over to say, yes, this person has just said that they think you're an impressive warrior, and would you like you to go out and collect... And they've made up a whole language, so it's not going out to kill 3 rats, it's going out to kill 3 grumble bumps to pick up their Google saps. And at this point, I would either kill the computer or myself, I think.
Wow.
So,
Jeremy.
What is this? It sounds like an N64 game, except there wouldn't have been the narration over the top of it.
yeah. So 5 years ago, this might have actually been amazing, but it unfortunately doesn't sound
25
great.
years ago. Before, like, PC speaker sound doing this, maybe.
Well, the graphics are a lot better. I mean,
Are they?
I guess
they're better, but look at what they're displaying. Those visuals were...
well, it's not just
Like,
the
unsettling.
sort of the
It's
combat
stylistic
system is
stuff.
not very inventive. The world is somewhat empty.
Okay, let's not talk about it anymore. USB. Let's talk about
Hey,
USB
1996 was a good year for sound cards. So
power. Yes, it was.
Yes.
All right, moving on.
It was a very
USB
good
power
year.
delivery. Did you know that the Type 2.1 standard, HDMI goes up and it has more bandwidth, right, with supported cables. USB-C goes up and says, oh yeah, not so fast HDMI. You may have a lot of megabits, but we have 240 watts of power delivery over a single cable.
is this
give
like
it
a
a proper name.
superconducting cable? Does
You
it get
better hope
pretty
so.
warm to the touch?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd think.
But give it its full name, so the USB-C PD 2.1 EPR, because they're letting it get out of hand again.
Are we gonna have to
Its
call it
enhanced
that?
power range.
Look at these pictures.
You know,
This is, you're going to get into this world of, you're going to have to buy your USB-C cables from a very reliable brand with a good warranty. would-
yeah, with like a warranty that covers the thing it just killed from you unplugging it.
Bumping the
I
allowed
mean-
voltage up from 20 volts
And-
to 48 means greater potential for
5
damage.
amp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At
look
5
at that.
amp,
It's
you
already
could hurt
doing.
yourself.
It's already arcing.
It's arcing right now, and I don't even have one of the cables.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the funny thing is that Benson Leung from Google is the one that was talking about this, and he, among other things at Google, is their cable guru. This is the guy whose Chromebook combusted because of a supposedly spec'd USB-C cable that obviously wasn't, because it fried the hell out of his $2,000 Chromebook. And of course, it wasn't. He wasn't able to get his Chromebook back or the money back from the maker of the USB. So yeah, if you're gonna play around with this stuff, I don't know who I would trust to buy it from. Like I want, if this thing arcs, I want you to replace the machine it just killed, or provide me a way of unplugging without guaranteed without an arc.
Just find one of those package deals where it has the cable and the brick. And then, like a company like Belkin, I know Belkin, I don't know if they still do this. They used to have this like connected devices guarantee, where if your thing fried and was connected to one of their power
Oh
strips,
yeah,
they'll
the
replace it.
surge protectors.
Yeah, maybe they'll do something like that. Somebody out there, if they do that, then I'll get behind that, I guess. Let's talk about, speaking of expensive things that can break your heart.
Yeah, I couldn't believe this either.
Look at the power. Just look at this picture. We'll go to the Tweaktown article. Just look at the power delivery. Radio listeners, audio listeners, podcast listeners. Imagine, if you will, a motherboard, and you usually have a few. You have some VRMs around the CPU socket. What if you had, like, I don't know, what is this, 24? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Those
8,
are
9,
chokes.
10,
The
11.
VRMs are to the left, but yes.
Right. Well, okay. 1, 2, 3.
VRMs
4,
go
So
with
it's
it.
usually 2 VRMs to a choke.
10, 11, 12.
It is 18 phases with an extra 2 for the memory.
So 18 plus 2 config, huh?
You know, that common one that you find. And some of those are up to 100. Where did it go?
If you haven't
100
guessed
amp power
yet,
stages.
If you haven't guessed yet, this is not an AMD motherboard. This is a Z590 And it's the Asus ROG Maximus Extreme 13-2 Lightning Returns. No, wait, no, hold on. But it's a
Miss
big,
Glacial,
yeah, it's a big
because it's got an AKW or EK water block on it.
18-phase power. Because you need that kind of power when your CPU is pulling more than your GPU. You need robust phases. And how much does this thing cost?
Would you believe it is a bargain right now at $100 less than MSRP, a mere $1,500.
Perfect. $1,500 for a motherboard to drive
But you save $20 on the chip compared to the Ryzen.
a notebook
So-
CPU that was backported to desktop, and you just okay. All right, it's $1,500 for a motherboard.
So what
All
else
right.
is special about this
An 8
board
core
besides
CPU.
the power delivery?
Would you ever spend $1,500? Informal poll here. Would you ever spend $1,500 on a platform that will never get you more than 8 cores?
Not until you give me a raise.
Because for $1,500, you could buy a Threadripper and a motherboard.
Yeah.
You could buy an X570,
You could probably get a bundled PSU in there too.
a 16-core CPU, memory, storage, and some kind of piece of crap GPU, and a case. I'm guessing. That could be an exaggeration. You can buy a pretty nice PC for $1,500 if you don't need a GPU right now.
No, it's utterly insane. Now, it does have 10 gig and 2.5 gig wired. It's got Wi-Fi 6, of course, a pair of Thunderbolt 4s, a good 8, I believe it was, 3.2 Gen 2 ports, 2 Ultra M.2s on a DIMM2 card, as well as 3 Hyper M.2s, Intel's virtual RAID and normal usage stuff. So yeah, they did throw everything onto it, but it's insane.
Jeremy, I don't see
$1,500.
FireWire on this, so I don't think
You
everything
got
is
spare
there.
slots. You can put in a PCI card.
Oh, okay.
All right.
PCI
All
card.
right.
Good.
Yeah, I got
didn't
some
PCI
oddities
card.
that
I hoard things, so I do have at least 2 PCI FireWire cards that I know of, but neither here nor
Excellent.
there. Just real quick, I'll mention I have a review up this week on some Guile. Do you know Guile? I would think they're Guile. It's an acronym. It's Golden Emperor International Limited.
I didn't know that too. You had
Available
written
in
that out.
Baidu.
But I had a little hardware story back in the day. Picture this: it's the winter 2009, and young Sebastian is building a PC, and I get myself a Core 2 Duo, my first Core build. It was an E8400, I think, and I wanted some DDR2 memory to go with it. And there was this Black Dragon kit, which is still on Newegg for some reason. And this kit, the Dragon on the black PCB, which was so cool to me because I'd only ever used green PCB memory at this point. The Dragon silkscreen had 2 LEDs for its eyes that glowed red when the memory was on. I was like, wow, this is cool. So, anyhow, they sent some memory, and I said, hell yeah, I remember that brand. I haven't used their stuff in a long time. You think like G-Skill, Corsair memory. But there's this brand, Golden Emperor. You'll find them on Newegg. And they've embraced the RGB lifestyle. Look at this package. I mean, audio listeners, we're looking at a package that has every color of the rainbow. And it's a small box.
You know what I like about their packages?
What?
They're small.
Yeah,
They're compact.
Square corners?
Very
They
compact.
don't. It's not these huge blister things that typically memory comes in.
Corsair.
So, yeah.
A little pack, big enough
G-Skill.
to fit 2 DIMMs inside, and that's it. These are small. They claim to have kind of standard height. These are a little bit taller than a standard DIMM, but they're not too big. They're not going to interfere with much, and they have a kind of unique pattern on them. They called it the Trident Gradient pattern, with the upper edge featuring a honeycomb sculpture. And as you can see, it's kind of it's actually molded into the plastic here. If that matters to you, if you stare at the top of your DIMMs and you like what you see, you might like these. And you might notice this Ryzen sticker featured prominently on both of these. This memory is the Orion RGB, if I haven't mentioned that, and it is
Orion?
Orion.
Are you sure it's not Orion?
Okay.
Could it be Orion?
It could be Orion. It could be that I don't know how to pronounce words. Orion.
Okay.
RGB. PC for 35200. Let me help you out there. That is 4400 megahertz overclocked memory. This is cast latency 18 at 1.45 volts, which is pretty toasty for DDR4. And it claims to work on Ryzen platforms out of the box, no problem at that speed. Why you'd want to do that is debatable. We will mention that very briefly. But anyway, Hynix DIMMs. That's what, or Hynix ICs. That's what people might want to know. Here's a Typhoon burner screenshot to show you. And I mean, at these speeds and at what is a pretty low latency CAS 18 for 4400. I was a little surprised that they're using Hynix, but they say they kind of hand test these and guarantee them to work on Ryzen. So I put it in the same test bed, the Crosshair 8 Hero Wi-Fi board, same BIOS as last time I tested memory earlier this year, and it worked. I just set the DOCP to XMP equivalent settings, and it just worked. It booted up, stable through all testing. But here's the thing. Northbridge frequency. It's some derivative. It's like
It goes from half to a quarter.
Yeah, and we're talking for 4400.
You're going from what 7 to 3600, 1800 to
Yeah.
11.
Now 1800 is technically an overclock, although it shouldn't be. It should just be 1800 and 3600.
3600.
But
Yeah,
stock
it's-
for AMD is 1600 Northbridge with 3200 memory. Most enthusiasts run, 1800 F clock and 3600 memory. From what I've gleaned, this forces the Northbridge down to only 1100 megahertz because the memory is running at 22 megahertz. I could not force it out of this. I tried, motive 16, 18. Apparently I don't know what I'm doing because I could not get it off of 1100 if I had the memory set to 4400. You mean
it wouldn't go up to 7200 megahertz?
I mean, yeah. Somehow I couldn't get my Northbridge much higher than 1800 on the 3000 series CPU I was using. But anyway, if you run benchmarks like Ada64, you'll see, hey, fast memory equals faster reads, faster writes, and faster copy. So it's at the top of the list over that CAS 14 3600 Trident Z Neo kit. But, not by a whole lot, but if you look at what it actually does in applications that make use of the CPU as well as the memory, then it's down, kind of trading blows with 2400 CAS 16 memory. So it really depends on the application. But if you're on a Ryzen platform, and I thought it was curious that they are advertising this as a Ryzen product at 4400. It's just such an odd frequency.
Yeah.
You called attention to
Intel?
the Ryzen sticker on it.
Yeah.
So that's
It's a ton easier to get a Ryzen sticker than probably an Intel.
But here's the thing. This is 16 gigabytes, 2 8 gig sticks. $325 because it's 4400 CAS
Wow.
18.
That's a lot of nuts.
For the same
Yeah.
series, the same Orion RGB memory at CAS 18, if you go down to 3600 megahertz, it's $105.99 on Amazon.
And you'll get better performance overall.
You will get better performance from your CPU. So I like this memory, but I would say don't buy this kit. Get a 3600 kit, whether you get CAS 16, 18, whatever. It is so much less money or just a smarter buy. Just don't get 4400 unless you're on an Intel platform and just want the high memory frequencies for some reason.
I just got a kit here to test as well, so it'll be interesting. I'm going to use the same tools you did. It's a Viper kit that's actually a 4000 with a CL20, so a little bit slower, but I'll try it on.
Run that at 36 CAS 16.
I'm going to try 36. I'm going to try 36. I'll try CL18, maybe 16.
Oh, you can get 16 out of that if it's rated at 4. It depends on what the.
It's rated at 4000.
Is it Hynix?
Yeah,
or
I don't know. I haven't plugged them in yet, so I'm going to use the same tool you did, and maybe the
Typhoon
same.
Burner, man. It'll show
Right.
you.
I'm going to get that, and I'll grab a couple of the same utilities, so maybe they'll be somewhat comparable. Although I don't have a 3900 What did you use? A 3950 or 3900?
This is the GPU test bench, and for the last like 4 memory reviews, I've used the same thing. It's time to
I
upgrade
have
to 5000.
I have the 3700X still, an AMD.
So should have the same. It should run at 1800 F clock, no problem.
The last time I put memory on that particular board, it did, so I had no problem with it.
Okay. Picks of the week. We're already to that point. We've been
Wow.
broadcasting
Whoa.
for a little over an hour. We've been actually officially podcasting for just about 1 hour now. Who knows? Who knows? Don't hold me to
That's
that.
great
The
because my
timestamps
mom's
will be
visiting.
different. Oh, okay. Well, then you can
Yeah.
visit
Oh.
with the fam.
Well, hi, Mom.
Who's
Hi, Mom.
first? Who had this
Who's always first?
idea? It's so uncharacteristic for the audio guy to pick something else. But let's look at Josh's pick.
I know, for
Ba-dum-tsh.
$479, you can get a Lenovo IdeaPad, 15-inch, 15.6-inch. It's got the Ryzen 5 5500U. So it's
Hey.
not the 3000 series. It's not the
Okay.
4000 series. So
They
it's
don't stiff you
Zen
on the
2.
SSD.
And say that again?
They don't stiff you on the SSD either.
No, it's a 256 gig NVMe.
Look at this.
It's a 1080p
yeah.
Monitor. I mean, yeah, it's only 8 gigs of RAM, which, not bad. 256 gigs of NVMe, again, not bad. It's a TN panel, but it's a newer TN, so it doesn't look bad. Bluetooth, wireless, all this stuff.
And look, it
And
runs
it's-
Windows
it's-
10, which I hear is getting better than ever.
It's
It's gonna be
incredible.
incredible.
Yeah.
It is going to
Incredible.
And okay, so it's a
Incredible.
Ryzen 5.
Yeah.
So it's a 6-core, 12-thread laptop. And for $479, I had to order one, and my kid's getting it for his graduation present.
Nice.
Nice.
That's a hell of a deal. It was shocking, especially when you consider the other stuff that is around that price range. I mean, you've got some of those ultra portable 13, 12-inch that are, around $450, but they've got, the 1 gigahertz processor, the really low end stuff from AMD and Intel, or the previous generation AMD. This is, current generation mobile from AMD. It's a base clock at 2.1 gigahertz. It goes up to 4 gigahertz, 6 cores, 12 threads.
Oh, hell, you can't buy a motherboard for that price.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's an amazing deal. Get it from Walmart, $479, and you've got essentially a desktop replacement because you got a 1080 screen, and it's a 15.6, and it's still lightweight, but it's running the integrated Ryzen 7 graphics, which they don't suck.
Nope.
So yeah, this is a smoking deal for everything you kind of need. And it's dual channel. It's actual dual channel memory. 2x4 gig DIMMs. So
Yes.
you're not getting screwed by single channel memory. And that
Especially for
helps
the Vega
performance.
graphics. You need it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
who's
yeah,
next?
this is awesome deal for under $500.
Just buy it. Josh did.
I did.
If you
Yeah.
haven't bought it yet, what are you doing?
Well, you're watching the
Let me put it in the
podcast, you can
chat
buy it
because there's
afterwards.
people
Josh,
apparently who are quite interested.
people need that link.
I'm worried about.
Link.
I'm worried about the TN panel, but if you said it's better, I've seen cheap.
Yeah, it's
laptops
not
before with,
fantastic.
like,
It's not
the viewing
fantastic, but
range is like 1 degree before it goes completely white or black. But
yeah,
hey,
no, it's
maybe
not
better
that
than
bad.
Okay.
It probably is.
Okay.
But yeah, it's hard. It is hard to complain because it does have an HDMI port on it. So
Okay. Look it up to you.
There you go.
JP.
plug in, get a Logitech wireless keyboard and mouse that goes with one dongle, plug it into an HDMI, 4K, do whatever, and you're going to be happy. I mean, not playing games, obviously, at 4K,
Well,
but
you're playing more games than you could with the video card you can't buy. At least it has a video card
component.
and an
that
HDMI
works.
port.
Is that the process reduced Vega graphics on that one?
Process reduced? You mean the
Yeah,
higher
they're
efficiency?
they're actually on a smaller process
Yeah, I
node.
think that was one of the enhancements to the 500.
No, I think the
series.
5500 is it's Zen 2, so it's 7 nanometer. It's the improved Vega.
Yeah, see,
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Process
Just buy it.
improved Vega.
just buy it.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremy, what on earth is this?
Hey, come on, memory materials are awesome. The idea that, if something gets bent out of shape, that with a simple addition of energy, it will retain its original shape. These are neat things. But did you ever think about applying that to pasta? Because somebody did. And it is actually kind of an interesting idea. So instead of having your old potato chip style bag that's 90% air with some, ravioli or something in the bottom of it, what they've done is they've figured out how to essentially, ship it like literally in a matchbox. And when you boil it, it will slowly regain the shape that it had. Now, there's some that they haven't quite figured out yet, but as far as some of the spirals and loops and bow ties, they've totally got it. If you click on the video for a little bit, they actually show it cooking away and curling back. And if you jump towards the end, it'll give you an idea of sort of why this makes sense. So it's just normal pasta, and they're using this machine to punch, what do they call it? Groove morphing. And it will, and if you jump forward a little bit, and you'll see it in boiling water.
Okay.
So away it goes, and it actually does come from a flat little
Interesting
thing. And so if this lady is carrying what is literally a matchbox with her camping, and she lights up a fire to boil it, I'll jump forward just a little bit.
Okay.
110, 115. So she
some
fires it
water
up.
out of
Better
it?
boil that
watch.
water.
That's what she's pulling out. Yeah, you want to boil that water pretty good. But boom, you've got literally a meal's worth of pasta in what is the size of a matchbox. So for camping, this is stupidly ridiculous. For the giant pasta collection you've got, instead of the bags which constantly fall on your head,
Okay.
you can literally put it
so
in.
good.
Yeah, well, come on, you got to sell it somehow.
Look, who's
she hadn't
eating
eaten in 3
pasta
weeks.
when you go camping?
If it's
Uh,
small enough.
Hello. Have you ever been camping?
Yeah,
That is this
fairly
that is
energy
the
dense,
basic.
stupidly easy to carry.
It is easy to carry. You just add water, you boil it, it gains in mass. It's full of carbohydrates. Yeah, pasta is that's
Perfect.
that's a prepackaged meal for camping. If you're doing any kind of climbing or anything, come on, man.
Just carbs,
And
man.
this
it
is
out.
also great for like refugee camps and stuff, where instead of having to deal with these giant, Breller
Anacondas,
well, them too.
transmogrifiers, transformers.
Transmogrifier. More than meets
Have
the
you
eye,
heard of this?
Josh.
There's this
Yeah.
noodle that's compressed
in
way
wheelie
down into
bags.
a little box. They're called ramen noodles, I think. And you just put that in hot water. Those things expand. It's great, and they're compact.
But the problem with the ramen noodles is that because it is in a little nest, they will get crushed to hell, and so all you get is that nasty powder with the flavoring in it, and then you sort of end up with ramen soup. Whereas with the flat pack ones, they would not break.
Wait, do you actually boil ramen?
You can.
I-
You can eat it raw
just
as a package if you
Take
want.
it out of there and sprinkle the sauce on it and crunch on it some.
Really? Interesting.
Little hoisin sauce on it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's fine.
And to the people
So you
who
go. I
are
had nothing to
outraged-
pick.
People who are outraged, if they even care of anything that I say, I have never been camping. It doesn't count, I think, when it's somebody with an RV and they're just cooking normal food on
That
the grill.
is not camping.
It is not real camping.
Yeah.
I've never been real camping.
That is not
I know.
camping.
I know. I agree. I don't say I'm
I hiked
somebody
for
who's
a
gone
week
camping.
in the Wind River Range, going up and climbing Gannett Peak, and you got to carry all your food with you, and it's all
Yep.
dried food, and you carry a filtered pump with you so you can get and not get giardia up in there, and you carry as
Beaver
much
fever
water
is
as
not
you
what you
can.
want.
But yeah, it's you have your little propane mini stove, and you've got an aluminum pot, which is not great for you, but it's light, and you cook up your pasta.
Yeah, I did Algonquin Park down the Rideau Canal to Lake Ontario, which was a better part of a week canoeing. So not only are you carrying everything, occasionally you're carrying that damn canoe because portaging is the best ever thing.
All right, Brett, save us. What's our final pick here?
Not every pick has to be pure technology. Some picks are just useful and on sale. This was
But
my
also
best
technology.
friend in the
This is technology.
It is sort
It
of.
plugs into
This was
the
my
wall.
best. This was my best friend. It uses electricity. This was my best friend in the garage today. $30 off. 135 amp MIG welder. 110 volt AC. And I welded a lot of stuff with it today in the garage. I had a friend bring his trailer over. Ended up welding a bunch of stuff on his trailer and welding a bunch of stuff on some of our off-road mini dune buggies today. So that was my best friend in the garage today, and it worked awesome. And I just wanted to thank it tonight because it was on sale. So if you need a welder, or maybe you don't even know you need one, but you need to stick metal together, this is probably a good way to do it. $30 off. This is a really good price, actually. Eastwood Co., 135 amp, does some really thick metal. Yeah, you're probably going to be terrible at it at first, but you know,
Practice makes perfect.
it does.
Perfect practice makes perfect, Josh.
I'm just moving into the wow, you're fairly terrible at this zone versus
Oh, okay.
don't
Have you
even
melted
pick
anything
this up.
valuable? Have you seriously injured yourself or sent anybody to the emergency room?
I have set things on fire a lot, and you probably can't see it today, but I had like a really hot piece of metal land on my head. It was like right up over here today is like this red spot on my forehead. But anyway, yeah, a bunch of stuff set on fire today. Sparks going all over the place.
Jeremy's getting out all this camping gear.
Shoes on fire.
Arms reach,
Here we
baby. Arms reach.
Well, you never know when you have to jam.
Okay. Well,
He's,
You never
he's
know.
he's got his bug out gear just right there.
You never know when you're gonna have to. Just
Jeremy,
jam.
I never knew you were a survivalist. You're awesome.
Good
I
for
like you even more.
Good for you.
Yeah.
all right. Jeremy is awesome.
I mean, your
On this-
back won't hold out for more than 10 miles, but you know what?
That's what you get
Gonna
someone to
give you your
carry it
best
for you.
shot. Yeah.
A companion, a camp companion. All right, we will talk to you guys next week. We'll do this again. We'll have. I'm sure there'll be some more things happening. More burgers will
Probably.
be consumed.
There might be some technology to talk about, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. More camping stories.
We
Until
could
then.
talk about ARM stuff because they had a release,
We,
and I'm trying to get all that together for a video.
But we could put a separate video out about that, Josh.
We sure can.
Oh, we could.
Yes, we
we
can.
can.
We
can
have the power
talk
to do
about
that.
it.
I could
know how
take
to
some
use
video-
editing software, sort of.
I could take some video of me welding stuff together in the garage. Would
Yeah,
that be
just put it
interesting?
together, like how to weld
Yeah.
your own PC case out of scrap parts that you stole.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Could happen.
Goodbye, everybody. Good night. All right. This is the after show phase. If you're still with us,
Bam.
I'm
My
gonna hit
kids,
record
my
button.
kids are
Stop
graduating tomorrow.
Recording. Stop recording. Yes.
Oh
this
my
is where
lord!
this is where the really heavy drinking starts.
I
Oh, you're
thank you
telling
for
me.
not just, making this into like a drinking podcast. I don't know if it offends anybody. Sometimes I'm editing and I'm like, do I want to cut right back with the glass up, or should I wait like 3 more frames till it's down again? There's some odd transitions.
And you've got to deal with that. And yeah, that's kind of your thing. I
Start
did
doing
get
that,
a
we'll hold the
message
glass up
from
longer.
I did get a message from KR Ducky, who had a PC Per challenge. He has asked whether or not we would do a 30 days of Linux, which is a Linux distro's daily driver for 30 days. Do it all. Do everything on Linux. Video editing, audio, gaming, writing. Report on that during a show.
I've done it. I haven't done it recently, but it's
I think things have gotten a little bit better.
Wait, you mean better than like CentOS 5.6 that I did the Astra system on?
I would say CentOS or CentOS is a very fine server OS. I've never personally used it as a desktop, but Ubuntu
No.
actually no Ubuntu.
here's the thing. Everybody's anti-Ubuntu once they become like a Linux master. because then they're on.
Well, what the
Arch
hell?
and-
That's
I was
all
going
we
to talk
use
about
for-
it, how accessible it is.
It's so
Yeah,
easy
that's
to
not
get
what
to.
you ever use for our servers at where I work. It's just Ubuntu.
Well,
I mean,
their
it just-
LTS is a good branch.
I'm a
Yeah,
CentOS
it is.
person. So,
Well, you would be.
yeah. If you'd like thought about it for a minute, you go like, oh.
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah,
you know,
okay,
there are so many
That
distros
figures.
out there. We just settled on Ubuntu because their long-term service stuff works really well.
And their help
it's-
pages are great.
Yeah, and so they're positives, even though people hate it. But you know, that's just where we went, because at the time we started to really dig into Linux servers, they had kind of the best supported product out there. So we went, and I mean, Red Hat is, you know, they went kind of crazy because that was the you know the standard for a while. But then, you know, everybody kind of broke up, and SUSE, you know, was bought by Novell,
Yeah.
and Red
Yeah,
Hat
that
started
turned out
charging
well.
all kinds of money, and it was finally, it was just like, you know, Ubuntu has pretty good balance of a lot of stuff. But use whatever makes you happy.
Indeed.
So not Arch then.
Arch will not
Works
make you
well.
happy.
It won't
no.
make you happy.
Nope.
RetroArch might
I
make
like-
you happy, but not.
I like
necessarily
CentOS from a command line perspective. That's kind of how I use it mostly.
Yeah,
else
but
we
for
got?
desktop Linux, I mean, we've done the Ubuntu.
Yeah, I think that works good. Mint
I like-
is
I
probably
like
another
Fedora.
desktop
Yeah.
Linux.
It's a very nice, polished install and polished product. Easy to. I just think about, like, who do I know that I could stick them with a Linux PC and they'd be totally fine. Somebody who doesn't use things that are Windows only, where they could function perfectly on a browser on another OS. And
Yeah,
then,
that's the kind of the bad thing about Ubuntu and desktop, is that the support there is wacky. And if you get behind a couple of updates, it's a real challenge to
Yeah.
get it up to date and have it working with what you got. So it's not perfect.
there are a lot of great applications that work cross-platform, and if all you need is a basic photo editor, and you don't have to use Photoshop, if you don't have to use Adobe Lightroom, and I would use alternatives just because I can't stand the subscription model. I don't want to pay
Yeah. True.
Adobe every month for the privilege of editing my raw photos. There's plenty of alternatives out there. I haven't used a raw photo editor on Linux in a while, but I tried it a couple years ago. I'm trying to think of what it's called, Darkroom or something. Can't remember. There's a few out there that are very similar to Lightroom. At some point, all you need to do is color correction and cropping anyway. So almost anything will get that job done.
Yeah, get Corel.
Corel. Yeah, Corel does run on Linux, doesn't it? There are
Dude, I
plugins
loved
for Linux.
Corel for many years. It was
It was great
the-
back in the day.
Yeah.
Their video editing
They still have good
software
products, but-
sucks. I tried using
What?
it. Their video editing software. But at least when I tried
Oh.
using
What was that-
it. a couple
What was that
years
one
ago,
called?
it
What,
was terrible. I don't remember.
I mean, they had Draw, which is very famous.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's just called Corel Studio.
What was- Studio. I don't think I ever had that one.
It's a
But the
video
photo
editing
editing
program.
was good. You could do
Sure.
all kinds of
Video
stuff
Studio.
with that. So
If you think that $80 for a full version of video editing software is cheap, you get what you pay for. Because the performance when I was trying it was sluggish in the timeline, and just like, this is a fast PC. Why is this so slow? And then I started using DaVinci Resolve. I'm like, oh, this is like exactly as fast as I thought it should be. It's like using Premiere. I actually prefer DaVinci Resolve to Premiere. I've used both very recently. There are things that you can do in Premiere. I mean, people get into this ecosystem just like they used to with Final Cut. If you're a Final Cut person,
Oh yeah.
it's like it's all Final Cut. It's all that matters. You will pay whatever Apple charges for a Mac Pro on any architecture to get Final Cut.
Again and again and again.
And I am very pleased that Blackmagic has been updating. They're pretty quick on the updates with, even if you got one of the new M1 powered Macs, they have an M1 native version of the software now. 17.2 is M1 native, I think. And then I'm still on 16 on my production machine because I don't want to mess with anything because it all works. But anyhow.
Dude, Aftershot Pro 3, the world's fastest raw photo editor for only $64 from Corel.
Ooh.
I bought a lens from B&H Photo that came with one of those coupon vouchers that had product keys for all the Corel stuff. I tried out a couple of the applications, and they're okay. But I for the image editor, it was just too different from what I'm used to with Lightroom. With Lightroom, it's muscle memory at this point, so I don't have to do anything. I can import stuff, have it automatically color corrected based on one of my presets. If I know what lighting I was using, I'm like, oh, that's the 4400 Kelvin. You know, for this table right here, I use a 4000 preset because of the lighting. So it's like,
You know what? I loved WordPerfect Office.
5.1?
No, I mean, well,
WordPerfect
I started
5.1 was the
5.1.
pinnacle of... That was the
the
pinnacle
blue
of desktop
screen and
Microsoft.
the yellow and white,
reveal
fonts.
codes so that you could fix what it did.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
actually really useful.
Yep, that's where they took it away.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I used later versions of WordPerfect, and it was so much better than Word for so many years.
I honestly think it still
I don't know
is.
what they're
If you
doing
fired
now,
up the
but-
old version.
where did Word come from? Because Microsoft doesn't make anything; they buy it. So Word came from
You're right.
another.
No, they originally did. It was the first version of Word I had
You sure?
was in like
buy it?
1994. It
Trying to
came with
think.
my DAC PC. It was like Word 2.0. And it was able to do through GUI what WordPerfect 5.1 could do. And so people, you could change your fonts and see what it looks like, and as compared to WordPerfect where you just had the one standard kind of font, but then you'd apply it when you printed physically, and if I remember correctly. Cuz it
Okay,
was
so they developed it, but they got
Yeah.
the guy who developed it for.
They didn't have WYSIWYG for a
Xerox.
while.
It
so
was
you're right.
Bravo, which was the first.
Charles
Microsoft-
Simone and Richard Brody,
the
apparently,
GUI. Yeah.
from over at Xerox Bravo. Yeah.
Xerox. We could do a whole podcast on the crap that
Xerox.
they
Oh, Lord.
did, and then they decided not to, and then other companies took it over and just ruled the world.
Yep.
I've mentioned this
Bizarre.
before on the show. There's a wonderful book called Dealers of Lightning. It's all about Xerox PARC and the development of a lot of these technologies, including
That we're still using
the laser printer
Yeah.
and the GUI operating system,
graphical user interface.
the
Yeah.
mouse they developed, the
WYSIWYG.
XY pointer,
Printer drivers. The
Well,
abstraction for
that I
printing.
still hold against them.
Ethernet. Because they ended up with
Printer drivers.
government. I'm thinking of ARPA. Never mind. ARPA. It's a
ARPA was
different story.
networking, internet.
There's
TCP/IP,
another book.
IP.
2 books. Get Where Wizards Stay Up
OSI
Late.
model.
Where Wizards Stay Up Late, which is basically the foundation of the internet, like the invention of networking, and Dealers of Lightning. To learn all about how all this stuff was developed at PARC. They're wonderful books if you're interested in computer history at all. And they're on Audible, so you can just listen to somebody read it to you while you're taking care of your child. As I did.
Indeed.
But yeah, you can still get WordPerfect Office Standard 2021.
Yeah.
It's available.
Or,
I'd probably do it because, well, why not?
LibreOffice is pretty good too.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
basic. Although I will say,
Yeah,
I
it's
have
not
it
bad.
crash on me quite a bit doing certain things in certain spreadsheets. It doesn't like graphs that are very colorful and big and with big spreadsheets sometimes. I don't know why.
You got to fire up numbers for
Apple's
that.
numbers is kind of a piece of crap too when you have a big spreadsheet. So.
You can't do a lot of complicated things with it.
No.
Well, I
It
mean,
likes
you can
very
try.
Simple and minimal. Don't have too many tabs in there. You don't want too many. It doesn't like it. Import a big XLS file and just prepare and wait for a while.
Yeah, there's some issues with that. Yeah, I don't know if you're on the latest OS, but they've changed it. I mean,
No,
supposedly.
I
improved it.
refused to go higher than what's 10.14 Mojave. Said no.
14.
I drew a line. I want my 32-bit app support. You son of a bitch.
14 is the one after High Sierra, which is not Mojave. There was a one in between. It was El Capitan.
Nope. El Capitan is much earlier. It's like 10.10.
Really? I thought El Cap was after High Sierra, but before Mojave. I don't know. I'm getting
Yosemite is
confused.
10.10. 10.11 is El Capitan. I mean, I could go to Wikipedia. Everybody likes this. El Capitan
yeah.
is 10.11.
Hey, if you look closely, you can see Kirk falling off the side.
Sierra, was it
Star Trek
successful?
5, worst one ever.
Then High Sierra was 13.
So what was
And-
14?
Mojave, like I said, never
Oh, it
doubt
was
me,
14.
Brett. When it comes to Mac OS naming conventions
Right.
or whatever,
Okay.
I know what I'm talking about.
Mojave.
And then after Mojave, it was all just iPad OS on a bigger screen.
It was 64-bit only after that.
Yes, that's right. Bastards.
Nothing wrong with that. Anyway,
Okay.
all right,
I
I'm
think it's time
gonna go visit
Forget
my
about
mom while she's there.
Yeah.
So,
I have to
Hi,
take my
Mom.
son
You
to
guys-
the dentist for the first time tomorrow.
Mom.
And my wife.
Oh my
is
gosh,
off,
dentist.
So I have to do it by myself. Not that they're letting
Wow.
more than one parent in anyway, but I just would have sent her with my son.
So
honestly.
first dental trip. This is going to be special. You'll
It's going to be
never can
special
forget this moment.
in the way that it's special to drag a 5-year-old into a situation that he's afraid of. That kind of special.
Deal
Yeah,
with
that's
it.
what I mean.
soft restraint.
Yeah,
Ball
Hey,
game.
who's
gentle,
using the
gentle zip
who's
ties.
using the not the Cherry podcaster's keyboard right now? Who's the one doing that?
That's Jeremy. It's always
Yeah,
Jeremy.
I'm bashing away on
okay.
my.
We're in
It
the
needs a
after show,
wash
it's okay,
again.
but look, I have the stealthy matte black cherry, not a sponsor,
Oh.
keyboard,
Not-
and it feels
Yeah.
nice. Those scissor switches give me pleasure.
And the
Okay, well,
mouse.
I'm running away.
Okay, goodbye.
Scissor.
Bye, Josh.
Pleasure.
Bye, Josh.
Bye.
See you, Josh.
Josh is gone. We're still
He's
streaming.
gone.
We'll probably rectify that here in a moment. Thank you everybody for sticking around. If you
Yeah,
did.
good show tonight.
Let's see who's still here.
You know,
What are
there
the
was
numbers?
nothing to talk about, but we managed to talk about.
There's 165 people watching this crap, and we thank
Oh my
you for
gosh.
it.
You guys got to go home. You
Yeah,
guys
sorry.
have to go home.
Yeah, it's
Go
time.
home
it's-
now.
I mean,
We're
you
closing.
probably are home,
Well,
but
yeah, probably.
stay home.
This is like the bar. Yeah, we're gonna close.
telling people
man.
to
We're gonna-
leave.
we gotta
And our
get
numbers
out.
are going up. Now we're at 172 concurrent viewers. Unacceptable.
Pe-
Wait,
What the hell
People
do they
heard
think's
it
on
was
after us?
Yeah.
People heard it was
shit, and now they're
shenanigans.
just like, what is? Oh, it went down.
Shenanigans.
171. All right, enough. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Nice.
Bye.